Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and always with me, my hetero life mate, Oh My Feelings. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing, bud?
I'm good. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, you watch it, come back to us, and we break it down for you, and we talk about it ceaselessly and endlessly until the show ends. Uh, the month of August is dedicated to movies that have had a, let's say, questionable production issues, not to go overboard with disastrous production issues. And to start us off, we've got not a movie that had a lot of production issues, but one major
The
one.
big one, which could have
Big.
which should have actually sank the entire project, but
Probably, which is the Twilight Zone. Well, not the Twilight Zone, but Twilight Zone, the movie. It's a weird title, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We'll say hello to the chat. We have got our mod in chief, Paul Harley. We got Penny. We've got Monkey Jeebus. We got Jillian N. And all the other salty nerds from the Salty Nerd podcast. Welcome, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. Even the lurkers who just watch and don't say anything, you're more than welcome. Lurkers,
just as a really quick trigger warning to everyone, this will discuss the death of children. So
yeah, we're gonna dive deep into real heinous shit. I mean, when we discussed like the island, Dr. Morrow, stupidity and all that stuff. This one is a little bit more serious.
yes,
A little bit. But we promise you, it's just one sliver. Today, we're mostly going to talk about the movie itself.
yeah,
Right?
which is good. It's basically just 4 different episodes of the Twilight Zone that are just being remade. That's it.
Yeah, basically. All right, to start us off, and because we said hello to everybody, let's jump in with our first segment of the night. It is called what the fuck? Behind the Screens.
Sound production, take 2.
I had to use the wacky wabbit.
Yes, yeah.
I looked at it and I was expecting it shows up like a little, a little window of what it is. And I've scrolled down too much. It went down to the outro and I was like, oh shit, that kind of threw me off.
Gotcha.
That's what happened just a moment ago. So don't worry about it. All right.
I know. We're only like 150 plus episodes in. Total professionals over here.
Almost 160. Hello to Jay and hello to Juliet. Welcome. That's a new name in the chat. Hopefully you'll enjoy yourself. All right, cool. Behind the Screens is usually where we turn to All My Feelings, get the lowdown on behind the screens, or just to me. But today it's a joint venture. First time after 159 episodes. But I will start. The movie, in effect, is like All My Feelings mentioned, is a compilation of reimagined old Twilight episodes. But before it was this compilation, Warner Brothers wanted a single story idea, and they actually started working on it with cooperation with Rod Serling's wife. Rod Serling is the man when it comes to Twilight Zone. But at the end of it, it didn't go through. However, the idea kept persisting, and it was made into a movie called Miracle Mile, starring Anthony Edwards. Don't worry, guys. Nobody remembers this movie. And the director that was attached to the project initially from concept was Stephen Desjardins, who actually directed the movie Miracle Mile. All right.
As an aside, real quick,
Sure.
The one bit that really irked me was, don't get me wrong, I love Burgess Meredith. We're going to talk about Burgess Meredith later. But they utilized Rod Serling's actual outro for the film, but they didn't actually include the intro. What? Why?
Funny enough, I have a note about it. And by the way, guys, I want to mention this. I should
It's
have
called a segue.
shut up. I should have mentioned it before. This is very important. I am not from the US. I didn't grow up technically with Twilight Zone, the old series. I bet you that half of the chat, if not more, didn't either. But most of you were probably exposed to either remakes or a full-on syndication of old episodes when either you grew up or later on, depending on where you are in the States or where you are in the world. However, I did, when I was around 11, 12, I did have cable or a cable channel that, much like Nick at Night, and we discussed this backstage, was a children's channel in the most of the day, but at night it was more, not really adult programming, but more catered to teens and above. And it had a string of syndicated shows like Addams Family, Gilligan's Island, a lot of these old shows. I watched a few Twilight Zone episodes back then. I'm not really a big fan of the Twilight Zone. I do like my sci-fi mystery, but I didn't latch onto it. All My Feelings, though, has watched the entire show, soup to nuts, and you said several times, right?
Multiple times, yeah.
If you guys have watched it, please add in if I made any mistakes or if we made any mistakes and you remember something or all that stuff in the chat. We love you. We love chat participation, especially when we get stuff wrong, because then I end the show and I try not to hang myself. All right, back to this. When the movie started, great segue, Rod Serling's original voiceover was replaced by Burgess Meredith.
Yeah.
Who did star in 4 different episodes. And if you don't recognize the name Burgess Meredith, it's Mick from Rocky, his trainer.
Well, actually, he's been in so many things. He's a great character actor. He's
I know.
fantastic.
I know him as Mickey from Rocky.
Yeah.
For each segment, each director it's the like we said, the movie is basically 4 different episodes. For each segment, each director had his own production team with Spielberg and John Landis overseeing everything as full-on producers with an independent production team that was then that sort of umbrella team was funded by Warner Brothers, the studio. Richard Matheson was commissioned to write and expand three Twilight Zone episodes and sort of have them reimagined. The prologue part and the first segment that John Landis actually directed was a brand new concept. It was
Correct. Yeah.
full on. There was no episode like it.
It's akin to Back There, but it's not quite Back There.
Yeah. So the prologue,
Which is, side note, that's the Twilight Zone episode. Sorry.
yeah. The prologue itself was like a short film idea by Landis, and it had a name. It was called Really Scary. Duh. The music in the car is Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Which side note, we're going to talk about Creedence and, of course, one of our favorite films mutually,
Pulp Fiction?
The Big Lebowski.
Oh, The Big Lebowski.
Come on.
I'm an idiot. And you can hear the same song at the end.
It's the Midnight Special.
Yeah, it's the Midnight Special at the end of the Nightmare in 20,000 Feet, which wasn't 20,000 feet. Never mind. At the end, wrapping.
Well, actually, no. Well, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet was the original name of the original episode,
Yeah,
starring one William Shatner.
which comes up in a bit.
Yeah.
The first segment, not the prologue, Time Out, is, like I said, it's an original piece, and it's very loosely based on an episode titled A Quality of Mercy, which kind of involves Nazi and mistaken identity, if I'm not mistaken. The original...
It's a Quality of Mercy and Back There kind of back, and it's amalgamation of the two.
Yeah. And the original title before it was named Time Out was actually The Bigot, which reference...
Which, oh, by the way, we're going to talk about that segment because, geez.
Yeah. And right before we hit the disaster area, John Larroquette didn't want to wear the KKK uniform, nor did he want to wear the hood over his face. According to him, is that you cannot be racist anymore because you have to show your face. But every other person that I saw was like, yeah, he just wanted to have his face on, like, on camera.
Yeah, because he wanted the spotlight scene in a major motion picture that actually had Steven Spielberg attached to it.
Exactly. And I was like, that sounds very much John Larroquette for reals.
Yeah.
So now all that's left before we move on to segment 2 is what actually happened during the whole thing, because there's an addition to that afterwards, and I'm not sure if you're gonna talk about it or not. About Eddie Murphy.
No, actually, we can add that note afterward.
I have 2 notes when you're done. It kind of reflects on other stuff that we kind of loosely covered. Go right ahead.
So the major reason why I wanted to add this to this month is because of this particular issue, and it was a major one. So during the filming of the Timeout segment, Vic Morrow and 2 child actors were killed. One of the child actors and Vic Morrow were decapitated, and the other one was crushed to death by a helicopter.
Yeah.
At 2:00 in the morning. Like, oh, wow, that seems like a very odd time for child actors to be working. That's correct, because they were working in violation of California state law.
And the entire Vietnam segment was filmed on location in one of the parks, I believe.
Yeah.
Sort of, there's a park that they used. I don't remember the name.
Yes.
It really doesn't, not important.
The major issue is the fact that the entire bit that was added to the segment, and you may ask, like, if you watch the film, this seems weird. This is not in the film in any way, shape, or form of Morrow as Bill Connor trying to go ahead and save 2 children. Wow, that was never included. Well, it was cut out specifically for obvious reasons. And the only reason why it was added was because the executives in their, of course, glorious, great position, they wanted to make Bill Connors seem more likable.
Okay.
So having him save children in Vietnam would make him seem like, oh, he wasn't just a detestable, terrible person. So his fate at the end of it, you could kind of see it coming, but you're like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't really deserved. But no, at the end of it, you're like, no, Bill got exactly what he deserved. He did. Oh, he really did.
Okay. That's it? That's all?
No, more. So one of the major reasons why the children were even on set was because they were actually paid under the table.
Yeah.
Under the guise of the fact that they had to have their parents tell no one that they were working at all.
Yeah.
It gets really, really, really sketchy. And you know, we're big fans of Landis. We really are. But
Yeah.
this was everything. The way that it was done was awful. So, so essentially, how this all went down was during one of the flyby shots. Um, the helicopter pilot was coming in and really had an issue with navigating during with the explosion techs, and the tech on the ground had no idea, so he still had it flagged to hit his mark. So he hit his mark. Two of the ground charges went off at the same time, and the helicopter pilot just lost control, completely lost control. Tail spin out, and
Yeah. There's an addition to this, if I may.
sure,
The fact that the pilot was already flying a bit too low,
correct, yeah,
and Landis specifically said lower.
yeah, because
And
he was under the direction of Landis.
yeah, and the pilot was like, "This is a bit too low for me. Like, it's a bit too much," without actually landing. The fact that they're not landing, it's not like, okay, we can go lower, we can land, but they're like above. They were above sort of an area where it kind of sloped into a pond of sorts. I'm not sure if it's like artificial or it was actually there.
Mhm.
Uh, but he was a bit too low, and he couldn't see like you said, he couldn't see the markers on where the stuff is supposed to go off, and he made a mistake, navigationally, we'll call it, and Landis was like in his ear all the time. That's why, Landis was actually went to court,
Culpable, yeah,
because everyone around him heard him go lower. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Sort of, And if you've ever seen Landis get an interview, like an open-end interview, you can definitely get the impression that he's not really a tyrant, but a man who gets what he wants. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So after this had initially the issue had gone over, you have to remember that this is one of the first bits that was actually scheduled to be shot, and they were considering pulling the plug completely on the entire production.
Yeah.
Because this is right there. This is the thing that will instantly, end a film, and rightfully so. But no, it kept on going. Steven Spielberg was so mortified by the accident that he publicly, in Variety actually,
Okay.
said that he would never work with Landis again. He was so mortified by it. But also, I have so much money in this, I can't pull the plug.
Well, there are reasons, and there are real
reasons. Yeah, and then also it was Joe Dante said just like, we had heard from set that this had happened. We had not even began initial actual filming yet, so we just assumed this was over. Talking about George Miller. And Steven Spielberg stepped in and said, "Don't worry, we're going to continue the production. We're going to finish the film, but after this, no one had ever worked with Jonathan Landis ever again." And George Miller said, "All right, mate."
Yeah, it was John Landis was so high up, like they had so many things like Hollywood planned for him to be the parallel hotshot, or the triple parallel hotshot between him, Spielberg, and Lucas, and it like all fucking fell apart.
That's why this is on this month specifically, because whole career done pretty much. Rightfully so, though, to be fair. Then also after this, we have the lawsuit. Oh boy.
Go ahead, because I've got an addendum to that, like I said.
So the lawsuit overall, both the civil lawsuit lasted over a decade. The actual criminal federal lawsuit lasted only 3 weeks, and Landis was technically acquitted,
Yep.
which, to be fair, is it sucks, but it is fair. He wasn't really culpable in a way.
Do you know why he was acquitted? It's very hard to find out.
No, go ahead.
Why he was acquitted? Because in order to get convicted for the count that they've had him
Oh,
on,
they charged him with? Yeah.
yes, it had to be malicious.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find malice. Can't find malice, can't convict.
Dent. Yeah.
That's complete lawyer.
They should have got him for involuntary manslaughter then.
They charged him with manslaughter, though. And if you charge manslaughter in California, you have to find
intent. Yeah.
Yes,
Intent,
which means either he neglectfully meant it to happen or actually wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
That's why he was acquitted. I mean, if you look at it this way, and it's very relevant, Alec Baldwin did fire the shot that killed what's her face? That killed the cinematographer, right? And wounded the director. I don't remember their names because I'm bad with names. But because the prosecution withheld critical evidence, he walked with Helena Hutchinson. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. You're the man. Because the prosecution withheld critical evidence, he walked. And double jeopardy. They cannot have him back on.
No, you can't try it. Yeah,
you can't try it for manslaughter. Yeah. And you can't try it for murder because it wasn't technically a murder.
Well, so, the other two was the other one was that we were gonna bring up, but this will come up. But when we were going to talk about The Crow, was the actual the AD was not charged.
Yes,
well, they were considering charging him, but how he couldn't have known because the live rounds and fake rounds look exactly the same, and that one live round was just in there.
Well, technically, we're not going to touch The Crow on this month, or we were supposed to, but it's not going to happen. But it wasn't a live round. Never mind. Trial? You got something wrong with the trial?
Well, no, just over the fact that the civil trial took over a decade to resolve.
Yeah. And I think the parents got paid a lot. I didn't even check, but I know they got paid a lot, even though they got a lot of money under the table.
Well, it's more the fact that this is one of the longest civil trials of all time.
Oof, wow, I didn't know that. The issue is Landis wanted Eddie Murphy to come in as a character witness for the trial.
We talked about this before. No, I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Okay. He wanted Eddie Murphy to come in as a character witness because it's like Eddie Murphy and Landis had a good relationship throughout the early 80s. But when Eddie Murphy said, no, I have nothing to do with it, and I'm pretty disgusted, and he said that in an interview, I'm pretty disgusted with what happened with the parents. I have nothing to do with it, so I'm not going to just sit there and say that John Landis is a wonderful person. And they had a major falling out. That they kind of patched over and did Coming to America, but on the set of Coming to America, they almost came to blows and nobody knows actually why. And a lot of people said that Eddie must have said something about the trial and Landis kind of threw it back at him on his face. And that almost killed that movie at a certain point. But there's so little information. You have John Landis not talking about what Eddie said and Eddie not talking at all about the altercation. He never mentioned it ever. Just like witnesses. It's very interesting.
The other major note about about the incident that was really most important was even Steven Spielberg mentioned this later. Like, this is the end of quote unquote New Hollywood. when directors had pretty much full rights on set. This changed with the influx of in the early 90s of like Miramax and the big independent boom. But outside of that, in major Hollywood productions, studios were on there. They had reps everywhere, monitoring everything.
Yeah. All right. So so this kind of ends the first segment. I'm going to move on to the other segments now. One thing I want to say is, and you kind of mentioned it, but I'm going to just elaborate on it a little bit. The order in which the films were actually shot were kind of weird because it was slated to shoot the Landis version, then John Dante, then George Miller, and then Spielberg, even though Spielberg is technically segment number 2 or episode number 2. And at the time, while Landis was working, Spielberg had a completely different episode in mind to do.
Yep.
But he decided after what happened, it was a bit too dark, so he went with the more lighthearted episode, which is
Kick the can.
Kick the Can. That's it. Kick the Can. So, the music from Kick the Can was originally written as a theme for Norman Bates in Psycho 3, which is odd. And this actually marks the first time ever that Spielberg worked on a movie that was scored by anyone other than John Williams. Like a major motion picture.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's the first of 5. Which is, I was blown away. It's like, really? He worked that much with John Williams? That is, like, the first one was Twilight Zone? Holy hell.
Which again, you're like, oh, the first of 5 films that he didn't work with. Wow. But it's like, but also, it's Steven Spielberg. You go, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I know the second one was The Color Purple was the second one. I don't remember the rest of it. I thought that don't really matter that much.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's like a strange kind of thing, but yeah, strange but not strange. Right. It's a Good Life, which is Joe Dante's episode. Catherine Quinlan's character Helen Foley was not the name of the original character in the original episode.
No.
It was actually named after Rod Serling's favorite teacher, and it was also a character in a Twilight Zone episode called Nightmare as a Child.
Yeah. Man, I know you got some deep cuts in there. I was going to mention that when we talked about this segment, but okay.
We can mention it again.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not a Twilight Zone guy, and when we kind of, well, let's divulge something from the behind the scenes, shall we? Like the real behind the scenes of this show. I mentioned this many times before. Oh My Feelings is my best friend. We struck up a friendship a long time ago. It's a long distance friendship, but it is a tight one. One of the issues is that Oh My Feelings brings to the table, and he always did, and he always will be, is bring really good research for stuff that is going on behind the scenes. And I kind of leaned on him for a lot of episodes, and it was kind of a crotch to me. Not that kind of crotch, the other crotch. Crutch. What did I say? Crotch. Never. Crutch, as in. Never mind. Thank you. Anyway, because he's been so busy lately because of IRL stuff, I had to do a lot of research to accompany what he brings to the table, and it actually made me love this whole thing that we're doing here much, much more. It's more work, but I love doing it. Even though it's a lot of work. So I'm not worthy. Oh My Feelings. You do a lot. But I started to get like good places to find out things, and most of it is basically listening to a ton of interviews that are readily available in various places, mostly YouTube, actually, surprisingly. So I'm very thankful to be able to do this thing. So going into deep cuts, the towns mentioned in the episode, Homewood, Willoughby, and Cliffordville are different towns that were in different Twilight Zone episodes.
Yes, they are.
Nothing to do with It's a Good Life.
No, one of them was the truck stop episode with the alien. One was another episode with the stopwatch. And I forgot what the other one was.
I haven't written down the episodes, but yeah. Shall we go on? All right. Nancy Cartwright, who played Ethel, the sister.
Now, I was going to talk about this because it's like, hey, does anyone else recognize that voice?
I did not recognize that voice. I recognized the face, but I didn't know where from. And then when the credits went up, because I wanted to see the credits on like what Landis did, what Joe Dante, all that stuff. It's like Nancy Cartwright, the Nancy Cartwright. Then went into the research. I was like, oh my God.
This is before she did all the stuff for it was the Tracy Ullman show was the first kind of like quote unquote kind of small pilot for The Simpsons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, she's Bart Simpson.
If you don't know, she's the voice of Bart Simpson.
And if you watch the movie, like, oh, when you hear her voice, you go, oh God. Now I wanted her to say cowabunga. Or don't have a cow, man.
So if you haven't watched The Simpsons in the last 30 years, the show has famously Halloween episodes where they tell scary stories. It is also kind of segment off, or at least at the beginning. I haven't seen it in the last 15 years.
I think they still do that, but it was basically segmented like the film was.
Originally, it was segmented off as like 3 or 4 scary tales, and they had at least 2 of them that are straight out of this movie, referencing episodes that were in Twilight Zones from the original series.
Well, that, and also like if you go look at the Treehouse of Horrors, like I think they've done, I want to say at least 15 to 20 over the last. I think, God, I'm no Simpsons aficionado, but I would say over the last 30 years they have to have.
So
how many?
I'm gonna mention one that's the only one I wrote down because it was the title name was funny to me, is Nightmare at 20,000 feet. In the Simpsons episodes is Nightmare at 5.5 feet, and it was Bart Simpson looking out of his bus to
the bus window, yeah
something on the wing. Not really, but really, yeah, that's what happened. Bill Mumy, who played Anthony in the Twilight Zone episode, was the adult that pushed Anthony in from the video game.
Yep.
Like you saw in the behind the screens shot that I've put up, the Wacky Wabbit was done by our friend of the show, Rob Boutine.
Yes.
Which is great. Right, and the last segment, the Nightmare on 20,000 feet, which was my favorite one. William Shatner was approached first to reprise his role as John Valentine.
It would have been fantastic.
Couldn't do it. You know why?
Was he working on Star Trek then?
They were shooting The Search for Spock.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And John Lithgow took on the role. John Lithgow is a very meticulous actor in terms of preparation for the role, and so they started to work on the entire thing. And one of the things they worked on was the cues on when the lightning hits. So it was a guy that had to like flip on a switch basically and switch it back off. the guy, several takes, couldn't do it on time. So he did it a little bit earlier and a little bit later, which drove John Lithgow crazy. But because John Lithgow is so fucking great as an actor, he used that frustration to be a better John Valentine.
Yeah. It plays into his paranoia. Yeah, that's
It's so good. It's so good. And of course, in a funny turn of events, John Lithgow, if you guys know or don't know, was the main member of a little show called Third Rock from the Sun, which he played an alien. Now, this alien was the commander-in-chief, but he was answering to the main guy from the home planet called the Big Giant Head. Although it was voiced by somebody completely different, it said voiced, but I don't know if the actually Big Giant Head actually talked or not. But
it did actually in the first couple of seasons, in very, very rare occasions.
I don't remember. I just don't remember. So please, I've watched the show several times over, and I don't remember.
Side note, great sitcom.
It was a great sitcom for sure. There was a double episode with the Big Giant Head coming to Earth to check out on the landing party. We'll call it that. And the Big Giant Head was played by none other than William Shatner.
Yeah. That's good.
And that's all I've got. Cool. Right, we'll close this. We'll close that. All right. We're 40 minutes in. Let us play our first game of the night. It is called Missing Marquee. Missing Monkey is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their text written off. We display them and all my feelings and you in the chat. I have lowered the latency to the lowest lag possible, guys. So you're going to have to guess because all my feelings knows all of these, even though I did kind of,
okay, we'll see.
Around and, flip things over. So give them a chance, all my feelings. You'll know every single one of these episodes, posters.
Movies.
Okay? So let me just bring this in, and we're here, and we're there.
Let
me punch this in a little bit. All right, guys, what is this movie? Can't do that. Can't do that.
That's why I stopped with 3 notes.
They're gonna get you. YouTube's gonna get you. Paul said it. It is Barbershop.
Yep.
Do you know this, right?
Yeah.
All right. Like I said,
I think it's actually one of DiCaprio's best films. And still, oh my God, Jennifer Connelly, stop being so gorgeous.
It is, of course,
it's Paul.
Blood Diamond. Hey, it's not our fault. It's so goddamn easy. No, it is not. The Born Supremacy.
The Born Supremacy. That's a different actor.
No, I think it's for Blood Diamond, but okay. It's all about the lag. The lag is
but Born Supremacy, different actor.
Born Supremacy is Renner?
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Lethal Weapon, but which one?
Which one?
Which one? Which one? Let me punch this in. Which one? I want to see it. I'm not going to bring it up, but I want to see it. You have to get which one?
Because I know Paul's going to get it. I'm just waiting for Paul.
I know. I think Paul kind of like, I'm going to let them answer. This is too easy. This is, of course. Oh, Paul, no. It is 3, not 2.
3.
Juliet, this is not the original because you know how?
Because Joe Pesci's in it.
Leo Guess was in the second one, but he didn't have the platinum blonde hair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I went with the unconventional one. There's a different poster that everybody knows. It doesn't have a text, but it's a bit too obvious.
But this one is very, very obvious.
Yes. And no,
Hey, and actually, to be fair, it comes back to, well, Paul's got it. Fury Road.
yes, George Miller, correct. Paul's
Yeah.
got it. I can't bring it up because one chat is very fast and the other one is not as fast.
Yes. Okay.
But everybody's got it. This is Mad Max Fury Road, correct. This is a deep cut too. This one, from all of them, this is the toughest one, I think, to answer.
I'm mad as hell,
And I
and
cannot.
I'm not gonna take it anymore.
Exactly.
It's a great fucking movie if you've never seen it.
It's on my list for a full-on review.
Paul's got it.
Yeah, Paul's got it, but this is not The Client.
Client.
This is Network.
Great fucking movie.
Great film. This is not to spite you on my feelings, okay? But I have found every single James Bond poster.
I'm seriously waiting for 1 month for you to fuck with me and just put all James Bond posters in there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm walking away.
I'm waiting for January 16th. You know, Paul's got it, Octopussy. And we'll say hello to Andy. Andy, how have you been, sir? Strap on because we've got a show to do.
Oh, this
You
movie
know,
is
you
so
know this
awful.
one. You know this one. This is awful. This is awful.
At a certain point in time, you have to ask, like, how does Dwayne Johnson keep getting work?
Because he worships Moloch. I don't know.
That's fair.
Return to Witch
To Witch
Mountain.
Mountain, yeah.
It's fucking awful.
Or you could actually call him what, the King of Angmar then, Meth? There you go. There's a Lord of the Rings joke for you, buddy.
Yeah. This poster took me a long time to find. Yes, this is Red, not Red 2. Not Red 2. And you know why it's not Red 2, Juliet? Because Morgan Freeman is in the shot. And this is not the
Oh
last.
my God. This movie we're going to fight about in a couple months. And can't wait for it.
I'm not sure we're going to fight about it, but I'm definitely sure we're going to have a lot of disagreements.
It's a good fucking movie.
I've already watched it.
It's such a great fucking movie. I love this movie so much.
I know you do, and I kind of know why, and I know why I don't like it anymore. Yes,
Yeah, he is.
300 IQ wizard. Paul is as sharp as a tack.
Come on, Paul. If not, I know this one verbatim.
It doesn't have to be Paul. It could be somebody new. It is not Revolver. No. This is not Revolver. But you're kind of in the ballpark, I guess.
You're close.
You're in the ballpark. It is Tandy Newton and the guy, I forgot his name. Fucking.
Good old Jerry Butler.
Yeah, I was going to say King Leonidas, but yeah, kind of the same guy. This is
Tom Hardy's in it?
Rock and
Roll.
Rolla.
It's one of the most underrated Guy Ritchie films.
I need to punch in on this one, maybe.
This is well, you could actually see Summer Glau up top.
Yeah, I don't know
And
if that'll help people.
You got Nathan Fillion.
This is the most. Oh, by the way, yeah, Paul's got it.
Yeah, Paul's got Serenity.
Serenity.
Which, by the way, fucking perfect cap off to Firefly. There never needed to be a second season of Firefly after Serenity was made.
Yeah, and not to be undone. It is a print of Han Solo and Nathan Fillion's character, which I totally blanked out on the name of. The fucking brown coat. Anyway, it's side by side, the lovable rogues. I love it. I fucking love this shirt. Got it in Vegas for like $2. Anyway.
You can get a lot of stuff in Vegas for $2, and a lot of times you don't want to.
Well, it's a thrift store, so
messing with you, buddy.
Yeah, I got ribs for like $15. That was fucking good.
You can get
Hey!
some really good. Yeah, you can. Sometimes you can get some good deals.
All right, cool. Back to the movie.
All right. So now, can we just talk about how great the fucking Midnight Special is? And how I've had that song stuck in my head for the last week and a half now.
I had it stuck in my head like today, but that's because of the rewatch.
Well, thank you, Jillian.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you. 5 gifted subs to Juliet, Sander Hammerschlag, 4th Greenery, Jorge. It's not Jorg.
No, it's Jorge.
Jorge and Victor Fontaine, which I think most of these guys are kind of lurking about. So don't have to. Like I said, lurkers in the chat, love you. You're the backbone on every single live stream. All right. Back to Albert Brooks, which I don't like him in that role for sure.
No, he was very, very annoying. However, I did love Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, I actually Dan Aykroyd has sort of the perfect casting for this because he's so into like the we'll call it the outer limits. And I did have a note that I didn't really want to bring up, but one of the notes that I had was the fact that they're fighting over which episode was on Outer Limits or Twilight
Zone. And what's so funny is the fact that all of them were actually Twilight Zone episodes, and all of them were actually previous ones that they were thinking about actually filming instead.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of like tie-in, like this entire movie has a lot of tie-ins and a lot of respect to the show.
Yeah.
And Rod Serling's work, which is great. They hired like people who were on the show, like Uncle Walt is the actor's name is McCarthy. So bad with names. The actor's name is McCarthy something. Sean McCarthy, Bradley McCarthy. Don't know what.
Well, actually, if you go through every single one of the segments, at least several different people of the cast in those segments were part of the original Twilight Zone series. It's like
specifically on the same episodes. Like Bill Mumy is sort of an outlier in this.
Yes,
but he was. A lot of people were on different segments. Some of the old people were like character actors or just background actors in one of the episodes, which is like mind-boggling. I think one of the old actors and actresses in Kick the Can was Steven Spielberg, soon to be ex a mother-in-law, because he was married to Amy Irving.
Is that the one that talking like this?
And Amy Irving's mother was one of the old elderly ladies.
Yeah.
And it's Spielberg just, why not? Fuck it. It's my production. Fuck you. That was fun. All right.
So the opening bit, all we have is basically like we have again the one thing that I really wanted to bring up about it was just like, man, 2 really good films that we talked about starring Creedence. Good.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call this movie great.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yes, Scatman Carruthers.
But yeah, he was in that's
He
the
was
Kick
in
the
The
Can.
Shining,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Which is, as soon as he had that smile, and it was like, yeah, I think Spielberg treated him much better than Kubrick did.
Yeah, because he probably actually had fun on this set.
Yeah, he had first of all, well, we'll talk about it when we get to it, but I thought he had like a role that was really fun to do, that was, let's say, age appropriate, and he had fun with it because it also kind of reminded him of being a child. I don't know.
Well, and also he didn't have to be brutally murdered.
Yeah. But with the prologue is like Albert Brooks is being the shithead, and Dan Aykroyd is being the very passive passenger / hitchhiker. They don't really say hitchhiker, and I think in the credits he actually is passenger / ambulance driver in the credits. I'm not
He just but it's clear the fact that they don't know each other that well. So it's like they weren't friends and that they're in the middle of nowhere. So obviously he was a hitchhiker and got picked up.
And then of course it kind of flips because like Albert Brooks is trying to scare him off,
With the
and
light
then
there.
it got like
He's
topsy turvy, flipped upside
Do you
down.
want to see something really scary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Sydney. Yeah. So it flips on, and then it goes to like your
And
typical.
then we have again
opening.
the first time I watched this when I was a kid, I was mad
Why?
because it wasn't Rod Sterling doing an open narration.
Oh, you are.
I
such-
was
You're
I
a
was
purist.
I was so pissed, but now I appreciate it because Burgess Meredith was in so many episodes of the Twilight Zone and so many very like titular, very well known episodes of the Twilight Zone where it's like, okay, yeah, he earned it.
And then we go to the episode. This is the
Bill.
pre-decapitation Vic Morrow,
Yeah.
who is being a complete. First of all, besides the fact that he's being a complete racist for no good reason,
Yes.
right? For no good reason, and I'll tell you why in a second. He's being an asshole. He's being an asshole to the waitresses, not to mention borderline.
Well, yeah, he's like, well, come over here and make me feel better, honey. It's like, gee, what?
And only Terry Garr had the balls to tell him to go stuff himself.
Yeah.
And she had like a line, and I was like, oh, Terry Garr is in this too.
Yeah.
And then he grabs the other waitress, and the other waitress is like flat out,
Just
no,
drink your beer.
no, and don't touch me, you asshole. She didn't say asshole, but yeah, it was implied.
What I find so very odd is even after his very racist tirade, the thing that makes his friends upset is when he uses the term the G word to refer to Vietnamese people.
Yeah,
They're like then his friend gets upset. It's like, what?
I love the fact that it's the captain from 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, it's like,
He's like, excuse me. Would you mind, like, I don't care that you're a bigot, but would you mind not shouting it?
He's like, shut the fuck up.
Would you mind, like, shut the fuck up? And then his friends kind of changed the tune. It was like, we don't want to be killed, which means they're fucking racist too. But
they are in a way. Yeah,
kind of. But they totally understand the situation where everybody in that restaurant or that bar is looking at them real sketchy like.
Well, even as one friend stands up for Goldman, the guy who got the promotion, he's like, well, I know Goldman, he's not rich. When he says like, oh, well, all Jews are rich and that's the real, like, he didn't need the promotion. And it's like, no, that's not true.
And the funny bit is one of the friends asks him, but didn't Goldman start before you?
Or you? It's like, well, that doesn't matter.
And he's like, that doesn't matter. I work twice as better, not twice as much, twice as better than him. It's like,
well, that also, I'm an American. It's like, fuck you.
and that's the whole point. You have to situate him as like the outlier. So he's pissed because he didn't get a promotion, so he takes it out on every single race. It really didn't matter. He could have added in like Indians or whatever, right? He could add it in any other race and it would still be that thing. But he went for
well, to be fair, he did have that double zinger when it mentions the quote unquote Arabs. It's like, holy fucking shit. There is no way this movie could have been made today.
And kind of fitting that he got decapitated, but let's put that aside.
But hey, no, that was the character, not the Camaro.
It's the character. I don't want the actor to die. He's just a performing role. But the fact that what they do is they set him up as there's Jews, blacks, and Asians, we'll call them. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, that's
like it's an amorphic thing, which kind of harkens back to we can triple down on this because what they do in the entire episode, or what Landis kind of wrote down as, the bigot has to learn a lesson. How does he learn a lesson? He artificially gets transported. After they talked about the sort of in the prologue, they did talk about the guy who has a watch that can turn back time, and he can switch.
Well, no. He could stop time. That's
Stop
that's
time,
the
sorry.
major point. Like that's the best part about it, because that's why there's a big difference. But like back there, or quote unquote timeout, this one is more of akin to one of the more, I would say, malicious episodes of the Twilight Zone, like the broken stopwatch, because literally, like, he breaks the stopwatch and time is perpetually stopped forever outside of him. Like there's, and the same with like again with Burgess Meredith, talking about him, the guy who survives the whole like a nuclear apocalypse, but his glasses break. It's like, no, it's not fair. There was time now for me to read all these books that I wanted to read.
Yeah. And this is the entire segment, or the entire episode, we'll call it that, is him kind of learning on his own flesh what happened, like how do Jews feel, how do blacks feel, and that how do one segment, because it can't be all of Asia, because all of Asia is a lot. So they harken back to 60s with the KKK, with the KKK hanging,
because it was 59 Alabama with the KKK lynching. And well, what I found odd was the fact that he mentioned the fact that he served in the Korean War, but
yes,
why did they use Vietnam instead? I guess because it was more in the zeitgeist at that point in time, still sort of.
That's
when the film was released.
That's what I thought. Where they actually used the Vietnam War, because it's closer to what Americans feel like. Plus, the G word, and we'll call it that, was more used in the Vietnam War, because in World War II, it wasn't G word, it's Japs. They just say Japs, and it was sort of every Asian was a Jap, technically, right? But yeah, then we
I was gonna say, just as an aside, to as a parallel, the one African American guy that was at the bar, who's like, hey, can you just shut up? He even offers condolences to his friends, like, hey, listen, I'm sorry for your friend. It's like, what a good dude.
He was completely reasonable, and I don't remember what was the actual name of Vic Morrow in the thing.
Bill Connors, I believe.
Yeah, Bill something. So the guy was like, just shut up. We understand. With like, he doesn't want to fight him or anything. He's being completely reasonable.
It's like, I just don't want to hear that shit. It's like, come on. But anyway, so we have everything that happens with the first segment. He ends up, well, what I find funny is, if you watch any of the films, if you have subtitles on, it will actually just say speaking in foreign language, which I found absolutely hilarious. German, French, or even Vietnamese, it's still just speaking in foreign language.
And you know what's crazy that kind of popped up? One of the the true German soldiers that capture him at the first time, I had it on screen. One of them actually played the German in The Three Amigos. He's the guy that, I studied his every move.
I was waiting for you to bring that up.
That guy.
Yeah.
That guy. And you know who else he played, by the way? In another movie that we covered. He was Alexander in Assassins. He was the guy Robert Pratt was supposed to kill, or did kill, and ended up not, appearing at the end. Sorry if I spoiled it.
That okay. No, okay. I got you.
I don't recognize him at all. At all. I just saw him in this movie and I was like, oh, that's right. And then I went down a rabbit hole and was like, Assassins? Who did he play in Assassin? He played Alexander. Yeah. Holy shit. Okay. I see it now. But yeah.
So we have that moving from the occupied French town into the 1959 Alabama scene, which,
Yeah.
by the way, if you watch this movie, heavy racial slurs are used. It's
Yeah, but
flying out the window, but
but
it's appropriate in the context. And the
yeah, like,
context is
just
key.
like Tarantino, it's context based. They're
Yes.
looking at him, and he even talks to them like he at one point he's like,
Look at me, I'm white.
yeah.
It's like,
They don't care because they don't see Bill. They see the object of hate, which kind of harkens back to the fact that this is a statement by John Landis as about racism, about the fact that like real racism, not invented one on Twitter. Real racism is people not seeing who you are as a person, is just they're seeing color, they're seeing race, they're seeing the object of hate rather than
correct.
Yeah, I know it's a little bit philosophical, but the fact that any one of those groups don't see him as who he really is, they ignore him and they don't even listen to what he has to say. And every time he gets to a point where he gets killed, he transfers to another place. So one of those places, he was supposed to transfer back from Germany. I don't remember where he ended, but transferred from Germany to saving those kids in Vietnam, and that was the one that got cut away.
Yeah,
I think that they loaded him on the train, and he looked through the crack and he saw his friends going out of the bar, and he called for them, and that's the point where he was supposed to transfer and have the sort of mini redemption arc where he saved a couple of kids from this American.
Well, because what it was supposed to be a traditional Twilight Zone episode where the protagonist learns the error of their ways and then makes recompense for that in some kind of action. And then, like at the end of it, after that was supposed to happen, when he saves the kids, he was supposed to then actually wake up outside of the bar. And then his friends are going to see him, and then he was going to like turn over a new leaf, essentially, as a person. Because that's like if you look at the Twilight Zone, it's almost like Aesop's Fables in so many ways, where they're trying to teach you a lesson every single episode. And sometimes, to be fair, the protagonist or main antagonist, depending on the episode, gets what they deserve. But some of those episodes are very few and far between. It's mostly about people learning a lesson and then moving on from that lesson. But anyway, so moving on from there, we can go to part 2.
Yeah, part 2, Kick the Can, which is, to be fair, there's not a lot that we can talk about this. It's very Spielberg-y.
It is. It's so it's very like heartwarming, endearing Spielberg.
It kind of starts off with us kind of feeling sorry for the main guy. I'm not gonna say even the main guy.
Well, because that's Conroy.
Yeah, Conroy, the guy who was
he's more of the curmudgeon.
Yeah, curmudgeon. That was the one that I was looking for. By the way, side note, doesn't he look like Walter from
Jeff Dunham's puppet? Yes, he does. And also he's an actor in multiple episodes of the old Twilight Zone series.
Okay, yes, yeah, I knew he had a lot of connections to the actual show. But yeah, like many. But yeah, he at one point was like, that's really like Walter, and also he acts kind of like Walter
like
does.
Curmudgeon, yeah.
Sort of like, yeah, that guy who's like, he's the one that.
It's just so odd. My parents spent so much money to get front row tickets to see Jeff Dunham.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is a fun little personal side note.
one of the main issues here is the guy, the Scatman Carruthers character, Mr. Bloom. He's the one where I think Conroy asks him when did he have you been in many of the homes?
I've been to 7.
Yeah, 7. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting piece of information. And it harkens back to the end where he leaves Sunnyvale, which kind of reminded me of
Sunnyvale, yeah.
Sunnyvale, kind of reminded me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but
Slayer.
never mind that.
There's
And
no Hellmouth there.
he goes down the road and there's another
Another one.
home where he joins, and it's like, oh, so it's kind of he's spreading this joy.
Yeah, because at the end of it, he's even singing that whistling that song at the end of like, age is only a state of mind.
Yep. And the whole, and this is, like you said, this is maybe the closest one to the episodes where it ends with a sort of a, they learn something about themselves, mainly Conroy, which at the end of everything, at the end of this sort of what Carruthers does, or what Mr. Bloom does, is make everybody at night into an actual child, so they can move and play and do what they wanted to do after they divulge this information. And when they go back to the room, they go back with a realization that they really don't want to relive their life. One of them is the Jewish, the truly Jewish, old lady that says, I really don't want to see everybody that I love die again. So
that's okay. This is one thing I wanted to bring up about this, is that that was my major sticking point. Was now it makes sense for the Mrs. Dempsey was the youngest of the girls. Who's like, well, I won't meet Jack in this version of this life. It's like, that makes sense. But it's like the other girls are like, well, I know when my father died.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, he's already dead. He's not taking you back in time. He's making you young again.
Yeah, that's yeah.
There's a stickler point there where I'm just like, no, Rod Sterling would have wrote this better.
I can't add anything more than that. I totally agree. I have nothing. I have no and nothing.
But then we have the whole thing too, where they essentially in their own minds was like, and also it's like, so Mr. Bloom, you basically have the cure to Alzheimer's. Share it with the world, you selfish asshole. Because all they do is they turn their minds young.
Yes, that's exactly what he does. And when Conroy Conroy kind of figures it out, he's the one that he has the same experience, but he wasn't able to turn into a child, which ends up him playing kick the can by himself and enjoying it, or seemingly enjoying it, because he did have a smirk or a smile, which it was hard to catch, but I was specifically
no. There's literally a point where Scatman Carruthers, he actually interjected. It's like, no. I want to have this as a bit where it seems as though I'm kind of some omnipotent kind of being. That's where he breaks the fourth wall and goes, "Don't worry, he'll get it."
Yes, which was fun. One damper on this whole thing, which I don't know if you know or don't know, the older man who plays the actor, the guy I had on the screen as a boy who literally flew away, sort of like Peter
Yeah,
Pan.
Mr. Agee's character. Yeah,
he died after they filmed this.
Well, that's not. Well, it's sad, but it's like I think he was probably in his 80s. So
yeah. He was really old, but he had sort of a last hurrah, playing a character as being an actor, sort of like
well, that and also
a sending off present, I would say.
Well, that and also even his grandkids get to say, my granddad was in a Steven Spielberg production.
Yeah.
Come on, that's cool as hell. That's a good final send off.
Yeah, it's sort of a how do you call it? Like a bittersweet moment, I would
very
say.
much so. Yeah.
That's fair. But it's interesting because I thought, well, he died, but he sort of did a role that kind of harkens to his whole
to the entire concept of it. Yeah.
Like the concept of being young in the head and having that last hurrah, before going off and, into the oblivion or heaven or whatever.
Shuffling off this mortal coil.
Shuffling off the mortal coil. Yeah. All right. Third segment. It's a good life. I think I wrote it wrong, but it's a good life. It's the Joe Dante segment / episode / thing, which is like we said again, a renewal of the same episode, which starts with a teacher, Helen Foley, coming in. She's looking to get to a specific.
The Harvey Keitel lookalike was the bar owner.
No, it's the guy from Gremlins.
Yeah, I know, but still, every single time I see him, like, wait, is that Harvey? No,
yeah.
It's not.
It's like, don't you worry, there are no gremlins in this town. I was waiting for him to say that. So the kid Anthony is playing in with a video game. You know what the video game is? I saw what the name is, but I didn't write it down because I'm stupid.
No, I don't off the top of my head. No.
Yeah, but he plays a game and it kind of disturbs the electrical fields of the TV, or allegedly. And so he gets chased off out of the restaurant. She feels bad for him, to be fair. And as she leaves, he half has an accident, half crashes into her car.
Well, yeah. Well, because that's his whole bit. Is he's fishing for new people to bring to the house.
Yeah. But I don't know which stuntman they got to do that crash because
it looks awful.
He literally drove into that car.
Yep.
Now the car was moving slowly backwards, but he literally drove into that.
And to be fair, Helen was not driving directly into a kid riding a bike. No, she was backing up, and
she
drove
was backing up very slowly.
So, yeah,
I had to rewind it, to be fair, because it looked really bad at first when you're not ready for it, and then you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, no." He rode his bike through her car, if he could, and of course she feels sorry for him. She takes him to the house, and then she realizes she made a massive mistake. Now, this is not the moment where she realizes this, but I found it funny that Nancy Cartwright is just slumping over. And I was like, oh, okay. I recognize the face, but I don't know where it's from. The other guy is like, this is the boss from UHF and other things. But
also, he was also in several episodes of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's McCarthy. That's the guy. That's
I wish it would have kind of been different, though, if she was on the other side of the couch where Bart would have sat on the couch.
Yeah.
Because that would have been his wait, was Matt Groening just making a reference to the Twilight Zone movie the entire time?
Yes. It could be. I don't know. But
no, had Nancy been sitting on a different position on the couch, sorry, it's a hypothetical joke. So if Nancy was in a position where Bill was like, wait, they put Bart there because of this movie? Matt Groening, you thieving bastard.
And one of the actual things that are very strange initially in the house, except for the fact that the entire family acts very suspicious, like sus is the least of the words that you could use, is the fact that, okay, Walt and Ethel, they watch cartoons. Okay, I guess.
No, but everyone's watching cartoons.
There's a lot of TVs, very old TVs, with cartoons everywhere. And you're like, what is going on? Now, the cartoons were handpicked, selected by Joe Dante to mean specific things. They have the titles of them are references to Anthony's sort of control over the family.
Yep.
Not really a family, sort of a makeshift family, right?
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
And then when he mentions his real sister, or at that point his other sister, when you see her face, she is
No, so why, like, oh, she had an accident, so we had to put her up here, and she's sitting there like forced to watch cartoons, and you see like her mouth was marked
yeah
over.
was Matrix shut.
Yes.
Yeah, Matrix shut.
Hey, Meth, get out of my fucking head, because as the first like watching this again, I'm like, wow, it's just like Neo in the Matrix. I'm like, but this was like 20 plus years before.
Hey, you never know. They like the Wachowskis could have like
Stolen this too.
maybe they could have stolen that too. I love the fact that once she goes up the stairs, and
Everybody just rummages through a purse trying to find like semblances of the outside world, because they can't get them there, because they can only have what Anthony wants them to have.
yeah, and at first, like I said, it it begins with very strange things. Like, why are they rummaging through her purse? These fuckers, like, you bitches, what are you doing? And then, of course, you realize later that, oh my god, they're so thirsty for the outside.
They're captive.
They're
They're
they're in jail. We would have acted the same thing, but maybe with different things. But yeah, as soon as they go downstairs, the real shit begins, because Anthony asks the mom to get dinner, and the mom is like, "What?"
Well, Anthony, where's dinner?
Yeah, where's dinner? It's like,
In the oven, silly. Of course.
and this is the point where you're like, okay, the kid has got everybody wrapped around his finger. I don't know how. Let's keep it going, because when you watch this thing and if you've not realized anything, it was like, okay, you kind of realize the power dynamic as soon as you hit this point, because up until this point, you don't actually know the power dynamic of what's going on with this family. You know, Anthony is weirder than what we think.
I would say, to be fair, unless you have actually seen the old Twilight Zone and know the initial episode that's based off of, and you go, oh, okay, it's this one.
Like I said, if you just watch this movie as this particular movie, this is the point where, okay, you're trying to figure out what is strange about this thing. Where's the focal point? Are the parents control of the kid? Is there somebody else controlling everything? Maybe Anthony is just the honey trap to get everything in. He is in a way, but not in the way you kind of initially think. And when this happens, and then she comes up with a tray of a food that only a kid
would want to eat or think of eating, and then Helen's like almost incredulous, looking at like, do you guys eat this all the time? Well, yeah, it's what Anthony likes. And then she actually, like, she's doing almost mental gymnastics in her own head, where she was like, oh, of course, it's his birthday, it's a birthday dinner. And that's when Ethel, the Anthony Cartwright character, says, not another birthday, not more presents. And that one sharp look, and then her tray flies off him, and he's like, I didn't do it.
Yeah. And that's like, oh shit. Okay, I get it. I wanna address this comment because it's very important, because I had it in my notes and I kind of like, it's not that really important for the show.
Jerry Goldsmith
movie for this. Jerry Goldsmith's music for the movie was first. Yeah, it's actually really great. The score itself was really great, and it did lean on music that was from old episodes, because Jerry Goldsmith is a master. But he specifically worked tight with Joe Dante on creating new music for this particular episode, and it started a collaboration that like was for at least 30 years with between Joe Dante and Jerry Goldsmith, kind of on the same level as Spielberg and John Williams.
Yep.
Very interesting. It's kind of where a lot of stuff started. And then, of course, I think Helen has a lot of power or kind of has a lot of mental fortitude to actually take Anthony into sort of the next step. As she tries to walk out, there's the eye and stuff, and she tries to get away.
Well, there was the bit where it's Uncle Walt has the issue with where again Helen still thinks it's a very odd set of situations, but she doesn't understand the circumstances yet until again he is so terrified because again he has no idea what he's going to pull out of the hat. It's whatever Anthony could imagine. So when he gets the rabbit the first time, he's like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah.
Then.
Wacky.
Let me get this. And Helen rightfully loses her shit.
Yes.
And as she tries to escape, Anthony finds the note that one of them wrote in her purse. Help us. Anthony is a monster.
Yeah.
And they all point the fingers at each other. And I gotta say, the bit between the characters of the mother, father, and Ethel, it was like, it's her. No, her. It's Ethel. Because the mom goes, no, it's not me.
Yeah, it's not me. Don't do this to me. Ethel gets killed by a cartoon.
She gets eaten by a dragon.
And we have this bit as they step out of the door, and she kind of explains to him that he's
which is so odd too, because this Ethel does break down everything that's really occurring. Where it's also you have like ask him what happened to his actual family, because these are all people that he randomly trapped, just like Helen.
Yeah, and we sort of have a resolution where he realizes that he's wrong, but
you have to ask though, because he brings them essentially out of existence entirely. He creates his like. If you were to put it in like,
that's a pocket universe.
Yes, I mean very comic nerdy. It's like Franklin Richards created his own pocket universe where he puts those two in there. And she asked what happens to the others. Like, I sent them back to where they wanted to go. It's like, did he actually free them or did he just murk them all? You don't know. You don't know with this kid.
No. And this is the fun bit of Twilight Zone where you sometimes don't actually know, and then the episode ends. That's what I remember. For some episodes, not all of them, right? It ends without that resolution of, okay, I've done this, I've learned my lesson, I'm gonna be better. That's
correct, yeah.
Sort of a standard episode, but one of the unstandard episodes is where it kind of ends and you don't have the actual resolution. You know what it's supposed to be, but you don't have the actual resolution. And this is one of those episodes, or at least in this version.
Oh yeah, I think one of the best episodes of that's a version of that is, I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's this episode where this woman who, the acting in it is superb because it's this woman who has zero speaking lines. There's no speaking in the entire episode. This woman who is like, looks like she's like a poor pauper, gets basically, her house gets invaded by these little aliens.
Mm.
And it turns out it's actually people. It's actually mankind colonizing a new planet with
okay.
with the aliens. It's like wow. Sorry to spoil that episode for you, but wow. No, the acting in that
it doesn't spoil any episode for me.
But so anyway, no, at the end, Helen essentially convinces him that like, hey, let me teach you, and also you can teach me. Making it like a simpatico relationship. So that way he understands that she is not going to leave him. So he brings them back to reality.
Yeah. And we have that shot where they're in the car.
And oops, there goes gravity.
Out of that pocket universe. Yeah.
Yeah. And that as they drive away too, the entire fields are verdant.
Started flowers. Yeah, flowers come in and everything.
Where it's like, could you just apply this? Kids be like, yeah, by the way, I'm going to solve all world hunger, everything. Just like right off the bat, just like it's like, hey, you kids are hungry. Here's a whole bunch of food.
Yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, we kind of have this omnipotent
being. Yeah, it's like
All right, cool. Let's do a stop because we've got about a half an hour left. We're gonna play our second game of the night. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1. Fight.
Screen Fighter for the uninitiated is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with their significant other. Two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? My glass is empty, so I can't really refresh my drink. And here we go. Little Shop of Horrors or Maverick. Chat participation is most welcome. Just cast your vote as we talk about these movies. Feelings, give us your pick.
Audrey
Audrey?
too, all day, every day. Little Shop of Horrors is, I think, the only musical that I could sit through besides The Book of Mormon.
Interesting. I don't like musicals at all.
I know.
At all. I used to not like Little Shop of Horrors. I used to really dislike Little Shop of Horrors because I don't like movies that end badly, let alone movies that have singing in them that end badly. I'm going to pick Maverick. Seen it recently. Is on my very short list of actually doing reviews for it. I don't remember if I have or haven't. I think I haven't. I've written it down, but I haven't actually recorded it. It is such a great Donner Western. It's a great Donner Western.
It's not.
It's really good. But because we're just the two of us and there's no actual guest, we're gonna have to see the chat, and the chat overwhelmingly, even though Paul is on my side, motherfucker, picked Little Shop of Horrors.
It's so good, man.
It's not a bad movie.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me.
Okay, I have not seen The Third Man.
You have. Ugh. You have to see that fucking movie.
Should have. I know the movie.
The movie is so fucking good.
The Third Man.
It would have been The Third Man.
It's got James Cagney in it, right? I'm not sure. I haven't seen it.
And I know you have not seen Turistas.
I've not seen Turistas either. Sorry. I have seen Lucky You.
Yeah, and I would. Sorry. You know how much I wanted this movie to be in the Best Friends month, and you fought me on it, and I agree with you.
What, Get Him to the Greek? I didn't fuck you on it. I said no.
No, I said you fought me on it. That's what I said.
Oh, I fought you on it. Yeah.
I know you don't like it. That's fine.
Okay. Which one of these are you going to pick?
Get Him the Greek. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me why.
Because it's actually fun.
Okay, cool. I'm going to pick Lucky You, not because I don't like Get Him to the Greek. I actually do like Lucky You. It's a really good story about gambling addiction. A really, really good story about gambling addiction. And I don't know why it's not as famous, but it came out at a time where the Texas Hold'em thing was huge. Really getting started, being huge. Like the first time I've seen the World Series of Poker was 2004, and it really started to take off from there. Yeah. So, wow, people haven't seen both of them.
Fuck you.
Right. Anastasia, the Disney Anastasia, or Flags of Our Fathers. Seen both. Sadly, one of them I've really seen.
Now, I will have to say, again, Flags of Our Fathers is a better film. But also, do I want to sit down and watch that? No. Again, it's all about the criteria. It's always about the criteria.
Yeah.
It have to be Anastasia.
Yeah, Paul's like, it's depressing. I know.
It is. It is really fucking depressing.
You could swap out Flags of Our Fathers and Thin Red Line, and it would kind of be on the same level. By the way, I would pick either of them against Anastasia.
Okay.
But because...
Now, see, had this had actually been, instead of Flag of Our Fathers, had this been like Saving Private Ryan, kind of in the same vein a little bit, but it has more bombastic moments that are actually kind of enjoyable besides the very, very somber notes. Yeah.
Yeah, Jillian says she picks Flags, although she really likes Anastasia. That's why if it's two movies that you actually like, and it doesn't really matter if they're good, they're bad, it really doesn't matter, and you pick one over the other, it's not a loss. It's just sometimes it's just an impossible choice. I'm gonna click on Anastasia just because I fucked you over on Get It to the Greek. The Longest Yard, the remake Longest Yard, or Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Both not the best.
No.
One has Nuclear Man, and one has Joey Diaz.
I would say, the only reason why I'm actually going to pick The Longest Yard is because of Joey fucking Coco Diaz. That's the only reason why I picked that movie.
Okay.
Well, that and also you've got some random bit actors that have kind of come up over the past couple of years in the comedy world that they're like, yeah, they're fun. They're fun. Chris Rock's character is actually probably his most endearing role ever.
No, hardly disagree, but okay.
Endearing is in the fact that you actually like the guy, because mostly when I see Chris Rock, I'm like, yeah, dude, you're a great comedian, but you can't act for shit.
Okay. Watch Head of State again. Never mind. All right. I'm going to pick The Longest Yard, even though Superman 4 used to be one of my favorite Supermans. I just haven't watched the other ones enough. I actually flipped between this and Superman 3.
I would rather watch Superman 3. And that's saying something.
Has, like, Richard Pryor, and this one has John, the guy from Two and a Half Men, John Cryer.
John Cryer, yeah.
John Cryer. Yeah,
he's like what I find so
Gene Hackman's cousin, or like
what I find so odd is, like, after Superman 3, how the fuck did they get Superman 4 made?
I don't know. The Longest Yard. Great.
Wow. Holy shit. Two movies that you hated, Beth. Two.
Wait. This is gonna be our last pair. Put your stuff in the chat so we can see where you at.
We have to see where the audience is first, because let's
okay.
Let
me start.
Go ahead.
We covered the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can go watch that episode if you like. I haven't changed my mind over it. I know it's a classic. I know it was innovative. I don't like it. All my feelings told me to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I would like it more. I have, and I do.
Yeah.
Okay? I would watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre again and not Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers is an awful film. Is awful. It's unwatchable. It is unwatchable compared to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And that we just reviewed that movie last week, and before that, you messaged me during the week and go like, "Oh my god, this movie is so fucking off." I'm like, "I told you it was bad. I told you it was bad."
It is just fucking awful, and I had to technically rewatch it again because I reviewed it for the channel. It's gonna come up on Monday.
Oh I'm so
damn it.
sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry, man.
Oh, Jesus Christ Almighty!
Well,
Oh,
if you
God.
were to ask, I would have picked just Texas Chainsaw Massacre just because of the like.
Yeah,
At least, like, if you were to turn it on randomly and it'd be like, oh, it's a dinner scene, I could watch the dinner scene.
Jason, I love your comment. It's the best. Super Mario's needs to meet
On the
Leatherface.
face.
Correct.
That's fair.
Correct. Bob Hoskins is already dead. So
Well, to be fair, the one that needs to meet him was John Leguizamo to begin with.
at least John Leguizamo was in like Chef, which I love him in. So he's done a good role. The other one's like, yeah, it's okay. It's good. It's good.
We don't talk
right.
about the past.
We don't talk about the past. We talk about the future. We look to the future. All right, cool. Yeah. And now we come to we have to literally blitz through this technically.
It's very easy to go through because it like if you really want to go about it, it's literally a 10-minute almost script. Like it's so quick and it's just played out more for emotional beats. That's it. Which is again, it's just Nightmare at 20,000 feet was the original, but you know what's so odd is it's referring to that, but he even mentions the fact like, well, who would be out there at 35,000 feet? Like,
and that's what made me laugh when he said that. He actually made me laugh because
where did nearly double the height come from, buddy?
first of all, because planes in the 50s or early 60s, I don't remember when was the actual episode, 59 or 60, 61 maybe?
I want to say it was 57.
57?
I think so. It was one of the earlier episodes. It was actually one of the first episodes of the Twilight Zone that Shatner was in. He was in several, by the way.
Yeah. So the planes were literally flying lower back then because they couldn't fly high enough for some reason.
That and also you get immediate fucking flashbacks when even in when he's in the bathroom, the airport bathroom. By the way, anyone listening, for the love of God, don't drink or splash the water in an airplane bathroom anywhere near you. Don't even wash your hands in an airplane bathroom. It is so fucking gross. Don't do it.
I do it. Fuck you. Not splash on my face, but I wash my hands.
No. Carry Purell. Just carry Purell with you. You're fine. You're fine.
You're germaphobe. Anyway, so what's strange about this this whole ordeal is the fact that there's a guy who is borderline claustrophobic. We don't know.
He's not claustrophobic. He's agoraphobic.
He's agoraphobic? He's not afraid of the outside.
No, he actually is. In his character bio, he's afraid of the outside and also has acrophobia. He's very, very afraid of heights. So, like, all of this is playing into his mind. And the original John Valentine was actually a statistician. That's why, like, in the episode, he rattles off some statistics.
Oh, okay.
Because in the initial episode, he was actually sitting next to his wife.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And she's the one that tells him, like, what do you do? Why are you like this? You're not like this, really. Is this the plane that causes this? I think she asked him something of those veins of this plane is making you nervous or something. But yeah.
But the other thing about the bathroom scene is it's such a flashback because he says, "Well, now we'll have to ask all passengers to put out their cigarettes."
Yeah.
And to turn on the non-smoking sign.
and it happens here as well because surprise, surprise, you used to be able to smoke on a plane.
Yeah, because they had little miniature ashtrays in every single.
They had little miniature ashtrays.
He actually even uses it too. Yeah.
And they actually had the non-smoking sign. Now they have it on because they don't want you to vape, basically.
Well, that also they don't want to retrofit all the interior of planes because it costs too much fucking money.
Yeah. So even the stewardess, we'll call her stewardess because it's easier. Even the stewardess is like, "Do you want to have this like pill.
She offers him a fucking sedative, or it's just like, dude, like, can I just freak the fuck out and get a Percocet from a flight attendant? Let's rock and roll, buddy. So, well, who's just like, she goes from like, well, here is it Tylenol PM. Fuck you, Demerol or nothing. Okay.
Like, we're talking Zoloft here. Zoloft or Xanax?
Xanax. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
You gotta give me something.
Give me something. This I'm freaking out here. Give me some Xanax or some other like. You got edibles? You got edibles of any kind? I will take those.
Okay, Jason's correct. No, it was 1963. I'm thinking of the original episode that he was in. My bad.
Okay. So she offers him a sedative. He's like, I don't want to take this. I'll be calm. That's sort of the initial thing. And the kid next to him is being oddly annoying as fuck, talking like she's an adult or something. Yeah. And he, of course, that freaks him out. Then he looks outside the window and he sees this monster. He says man, but it's a monster literally tampering with one of the engines. And it's a flash in the pants. I had to like pause it.
The flash, because the lightning comes down and hits, so he can actually visibly see it, and that's why the pilot thinks that it was actually the lightning strike that blew out one of the engines, but when it was actually the gremlin that did it.
Yeah. I want to get perfect. The doll.
The doll. No smoking. SRMKING.
A legit W.D. Fields doll.
W.C. Fields, yeah, definitely.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Why did I say W.D.? Like a WD-40? Because I'm stupid.
I was gonna say too, just as an aside, it comes up later, but when the mom gets woken up, she's like, I love this line because we've said this line before.
Yeah.
My God, what has she done this time?
There was a point where I was like, is the mom going to flip out too? But she like never does.
Like, nope.
And she does not control her child whatsoever.
Nope. I think mommy had a couple of cocktails. And
mommy had a lot of cocktails. And they're technically in first class or business class because they have a ton of room. A ton of leg room. Where is it? There? So he, at some point, John Valentine does take the sedatives.
Limits bit. Look, no, I'm already getting tired.
Yeah.
See?
And he tries to fall asleep and he shuts the thing down and he gets another lightning strikes and he kind of shuts the other one down too, just in case. But something compels him to look back. When he opens the thing, the fucking creature is right there
just staring at him,
and he goes bananas. Like
I did love after his first like initial freak out, the empathetic elderly lady like, I saw him too. The scaly green guy outside the window, and her husband's like, don't patronize him. Just like, no, you have to. You play along with it. It'll calm him down. Like, no, you don't. You don't feed into someone's psychosis.
No, you don't. Especially when, like, even the it's not the captain. It's the first it's the
officer,
first officer or whatever. He comes in and he tells him, look, we're 20 minutes out from landing. And by the way, if you're 20 minutes out from landing and you're in 35,000 feet, there's something.
You're way too fucking high up.
You're way too high. Okay.
Well, given just the time lapse, unless he did fall asleep for like a different like intermediate time where there is a somewhat time lapse, there is no way they should have been at 35,000 feet to begin with anyway.
Yeah, but when he gets to this point where he tries to calm him down, that's the point where he looks again and the creature is destroying the second engine.
No, because he rips off a piece of the wing and throws it into the engine. It's like, fuck you. Ah.
Yeah. And when you see it at first, it was like, yeah, just a lightning strike, and you kind of barely see it. And yeah, like I said, I had to pause it to actually see the whole figure. And you're like, okay, it could be a figure of like figment of his imagination. But when they linger on to the creature destroying the fucking engine, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He's having
real.
the freak out, but he's correct. So he's in a full-on paranoia, but it's not paranoia. It's the truth.
Yeah.
And it even wrestles the air marshal, which, dude.
Which, by the way, the most ineffective
Yeah.
air marshal of all time.
Yeah, if you're that heavy, you're not supposed to be an air marshal.
Well, also, if a passenger can get your gun away from you just by standard training, you're not fit for duty.
No, that's bad. You did a bad thing.
Good job. Yeah.
So at one point he tries to like destroy the window with
because an air canister comes by,
canister or like an O2 canister,
can of oxygen. Yeah.
And he sort of breaks it, but not really. And the air marshal kind of tosses with it. By the way, if he would have sat on him, it would have been better. But like you said, he's ineffective. So he loses the gun, takes the little 38, and he shoots the thing.
Which side note, that's not how airplane glass works.
No.
It shatters like it's a window pane. It's like, it's like no.
But it does cause a
Massive
minor decompression. But again, they're lowering already for landing, so it's not supposed to be that much.
And also,
but okay,
part of his upper torso goes out the window. How the fuck is he still? It would have compressed him.
It would have
even dead.
And the creature is looking at him face to face.
I love it when the creature walks up to him, grabs him by the face, just mushes his face, and then just no, and then flies off like fuck you.
And then he just just flies away. And then as the plane lands, you get the sort of the crew coming in. Okay, let's see what damage is there. And
no, didn't they see all the fucking claw marks? Like, what the fuck happened up
there? They see, this. Sort of this. It's like, what the hell happened? That doesn't look like a lightning. And of course, we have that last bit where it kind of gets full circle, where the ambulance driver, like I mentioned, don't remember who, is Dan Aykroyd, and there's the Creedence music in the background as John Valentine getting hauled away into I don't know, some kind of hospital.
I was like, well, and then the two is like, oh wow, apparently John Valentine, a man who is probably, well, he's relatively a very intelligent man because he wrote that book about microchips, obviously, according to the story, this version of the story. Even he can't resist the allure of Creedence Clearwater Revival. But man, I like Creedence. So I heard you had a scare up there.
Yeah.
Do you want to see something really
scary?
And cut to the actual Sterling ending. Yeah.
Which is, as soon as it was up, I was like, oh, that's the stuff I remember. That's the one. And ending, and of course it goes to credits, and that is the end of the movie.
And to be fair, for a movie that is soup to nuts, like an hour 43, that's including credits on both ends.
Yep.
But actually, like film time, it's like an hour 30, like an hour 33, hour 34, for 4 different segments, a prologue and an epilogue as well. That's tight. I mean,
yeah, it never felt like it was dragging. Every story was moving forward, but it's like it's very self-contained, not a lot of sets, not a lot. I think maybe only It's a Good Life has the most kind of changes. There's the little mini bar, and then they're traveling off into the house, and then you have the house set,
Set.
which is lower and upper.
And
And
then the
then
meadow out. Yeah.
the pocket universe, and then the meadow, which is basically the same kind of road that they rode into. So that's the one that is the most kind of open.
I would think the only other one that had the most other shots would have to be Back There, which the first segment. The Back
Yes.
There is the first episode that's kind of based on loosely.
No, it's called Time Out.
Well, Time Out, but Back There was the initial episode that it's loosely based off of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. There's the
Okay,
three.
because it would have the bar, the outside of the bar,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
occupied city, and then
But
yeah.
generally speaking, it's sort of self-contained little story where, like in the episodes, what was the original episode time? Is it at like 25 minutes of television?
Yeah, so it's runtime 30 minutes, obviously, but commercials were actually they had shorter breaks back then, so it was typically a runtime of 24 to 25 minutes, which, if you think about it, makes perfect sense. You packed 4 of those in real quick, just quick session.
Yeah, and it I think the cheapest one, and also was shot in 6 days, was Kick the Can.
Oh yeah.
Literally was quick in and out, and they got it done. Plus, Spielberg wanted to get the hell out of there and finish up the production.
He wanted nothing to do with it anymore. Yeah.
But yeah, an interesting watch. I haven't watched it in a long time. One of those things that I watched as a kid, dismissed it, never watched it again, rewatched it for this episode. I was like, oh, okay, I remember this, I remember that. And it kind of mixed together with very few episodes that I've seen later on as like a 13, 12-year-old, something like that. And I definitely, like I said, it's a vague memory, but I definitely seen the one with William Shatner, because I got there's something on the wing, or there's somebody on the wing. I always got it.
Yep.
And I always thought people around me don't really get where it's coming from, and they kind of lose that meaning when it comes up as a joke at a different place, which is weird, because it comes up a lot in sort of
it's a giant pulp culture reference. I mean, it's a trope now almost.
Yeah. So having to watch that reimagined story, it was like, oh, they went with like full dark, and they didn't include the sentence, "There's something on the wing."
Yeah.
He says there's a man on the wing, but really early, and they don't harken back to it. They concentrate on the paranoia and how he flips out more than anything. Yep. And it kind of goes sidetracked to what he said, and never mind. I said it.
I got you.
Okay. You get it. They don't really harken back to actually leading on the sentence as a focal point for what is happening. They actually go on with the story and go into the extreme.
Correct. It's its own unique interpretation of the narrative, which is good. And
I see you, Scotty boy, I see you.
I was going to say, because I know we're wrapping up, but overall, I just really have one major note. It's overall, is it a good movie? No, not in really any way, shape, or form. If you are a fan of the Twilight Zone, the original series, in any way, shape, or form, you can watch this and go, I know that actor. I get this reference. I've seen the original episode. This is kind of fun.
Other than that,
that, or if you really wanted to see, like, wow, people died to make this. And
you know what's strange? I think it made a good chunk of change.
I think it was made on was it $11 or $12 million budget?
I didn't even
48. I think overall it was like a $48 million return. So it was like 4 times its budget on return, which Again, having Spielberg attached should have been like $50 to $60 million, which says a lot. And people had no idea about the controversy at the time.
And remember, this is a year out from E.T. E.T. was 82. So Spielberg was like here, right in the stratosphere of Hollywood at that point. It was like whatever he wanted to make, you'll get any budget you want and you'll
The
make.
only thing that would have made this bigger is instead of like George Miller, as much as we both love him, had that been directed by George Lucas instead. Like that would have gotten whew.
Okay, I see it.
Could you imagine from the creator of Star Wars and E.T.? Like, what?
Yeah. And that's how they sold movies back then. It doesn't matter the story. It's like, oh, who created this? Who's acting in it? It's this guy. I'm going to go and watch it. That's the selling point.
Yeah, no, that's correct, Jason. We talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed yourself and hope this was entertaining for you, even though we did kind of talk about something a little bit more dark, but this is how August goes. You want to go real dark? Real dark. Join us next week. Now, we had a little bit of a scheduling issue, so we wanted to finish up the entire month with Apocalypse Now. Now, because of IRL stuff, because of some guests had to say, well, I cannot do this because of other IRL stuff, we are going to cover Apocalypse Now. So next week, we are covering Apocalypse Now. Currently, we don't have a guest, but you never know.
Prepare to go into the heart of darkness.
And we're gonna sandwich the entire month. We started with Island Dr. Morrow, and we're gonna finish up with Apocalypse Now. And hopefully you'll join us because from the entire thing, I think Apocalypse Now was the one that we're like, okay, this is the movie we're gonna.
I put that on there like we have got to talk about this fucking movie because wow.
Because it has everything from everything. It had accidents. It's got people who almost got killed. It's got people who really got killed that nobody talked about because they were all Filipinos.
Yep.
It took forever to make. It's got Brando in it. It's got everything.
Yeah.
Everything. People going crazy. People like, this is like the end of my career. Maybe not.
People now that actually starting their personal addictions that they suffered through for many, many years. Yeah.
And people ended their addiction after many, many years of addiction. It's got everything. It's got a whole bunch of things. And I've literally started research for this 2 weeks ago.
And just to be fair, next week we will not be talking about the movie pretty much at all.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about everything. Like this is what this month was specifically for. We're going to be talking about what a nightmare this film was to make.
Yeah. Definitely not going into the guts of the actual movie, but definitely watch the movie and come back to us next week and we'll talk about everything that is behind the screens technically. Right, guys? But stay because we're going to divert you to Tom and Geary on Pop Culture Minefield. They've already started talking about Alien, the movie that they were supposed to talk about 4 weeks ago. But stay here. We're going to rate them. So from me to you.
Side note.
Okay.
If everybody can do me a favor, just type "fuck Jonesy" in chat.
That's on you guys. Remember, guys. Remember. After all this, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. We'll see you next week. You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.